Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever experienced any form of anxiety in your life? Small or big, doesn't really matter. If you have, I'm sorry. I personally, over the past year, have been dealing with it in many ways, and the first time it ever really happened to me where it became a problem was about a few months ago at the time of this recording, and it was utterly dreadful. My body would feel cold. I could primarily feel my feet for the most part. It's a different sensation than feeling your body regularly. Your body feels like it's in pain, but it really isn't. With the added sensation of being petrified or in a constant state of fear, and you can't explain why. It is a feeling that I would only wish upon my worst enemy. The climaxes were terrible, and I had to constantly wait it out till it had its due with my body until it left. It's not some boomer joke to a millennial. It's real. And it's scary. It quite literally holds you down, and you are at its mercy to it. However, you get over it. With time eventually comes healing, and your body is able to recover from it. In my case, I was able to will it out of my body, just constantly reassuring myself it's a physical issue and you can overcome it. And luckily for me, and in the current months since that happened, I've been pretty good for the most part. However, there is a thought I had to myself a while back where, what if it never ended? What if the peak of your anxiety was the constant? Like, you're not faking it. It's literally happening to you constantly at its peak 24/7. It never ends. It never has a low. It's always constantly at a high. To me, on a very super real level, that is probably one of the most terrifying things a human can experience. The fact that you will never know peace again within the comfort of your own skin. The locking of an emotion at its climax is a terrifying ability if one could possess it. And in Purple Haze feedback, either to your delightment or your fear, the author, Kocaqi, gave this power to a very terrifying individual. I present to you the most terrifying stands, Rainy Day Dream Away, and his stand user, Vladimir Kocaqi. And oh, by the way, hello, my name is Metas. Walk with me. Now, we're going to do this a little bit differently than I usually do with the most terrifying stands. I have a formula of how I do things, but due to the nature of Vladimir being an official non-canon character, that is shockingly, at the time of me recording this, is getting a English release of a JoJo's Japanese novel, the first of its kind, by the way. I hope we get more of it. I will be changing the format in more than one way, meaning that I'm answering the question that probably popped into your head once I dropped his name. Who the hell is Vladimir Kocaqi? Now, where our story begins with Vladimir is during the Battle of Sicily during World War II. As Axis powers were being pushed out by the Allied forces, in classic World War II fashion, the Axis powers started to take out people they thought were traitors and or spies. Vladimir's parents would be killed off screen, and as himself and his sister were running away, sadly his sister would be gunned down. Losing blood fast, she would begin to hallucinate, thinking that she had lived a full life. Simultaneously, within that moment, Vladimir's stand would activate. Within a minute or two, Rainy Day Dream Away would give Vladimir's sister 80 years within her head, dying peacefully with a smile. Now, while the book doesn't really state it, it can be inferred that this moment establishes what Vladimir believes for the rest of his life, that dreams and reality are more or less the same. But in order to achieve either of those, a person must be part of a whole unit or group, because fortune almost never rarely benefits the individual. You also see this within Jimi Hendrix's song reference to the stand Rainy Day Dream Away, as the song tries to tell you even though one thing is happening, that doesn't mean another thing that you want to happen can't happen. Just because it's raining doesn't mean that you can't have fun or relax, giving credence to the idea that dreams and reality are more connected than you think. Because of this mindset, it more or less leads him down the road of joining Passion years later. Now, why does a powerful stand user like Vladimir even join Passion to begin with? The book doesn't actually specify why he joins Passion, however, we can infer the fact that he gets boatloads of money from Diavolo because of what he does with his group is more than likely the answer to the question. Vladimir wanted that goddamn bag. Makes sense, he grew up in a small village. Being wealthy is probably one of his younger dreams. Now, what he does for Passion during this time is very interesting. He is a drug smuggler, more or less, or drug trafficker, drug maker. It's a mix of all three. His stand group allows him to make highly addictive narcotics. Because of this, it makes Diavolo wealthy and Passion wealthy and himself wealthy, to such a significant point that Vladimir can virtually do anything he wants. However, in me saying that, you're probably wondering, well, wouldn't Diavolo as the boss of Passion check him? Well, I'm going to quote something for you, and it's going to put your jaw on the floor. Even Diavolo decided he was better off negotiating an alliance than using his stand to keep him in line. He's experienced, a veteran, survived far more fights than you, Morello to Fugo. You heard that right. Diavolo would rather negotiate than actually try to check Vladimir with King Crimson. Vladimir and Rainy Day Dream Away are no joke. They are some pretty serious contenders for being main villain level threats in the JoJo universe. Looking at Rainy Day Dreams Away's stand stats makes it plainly obvious how powerful the stand truly is. Locks an idea, emotion, or sensation. Covers an area like a misty rain and can target anyone in that range. Once locked in, they can never escape. Somebody with a minor illness might fleetingly wonder if it will kill them. If that is locked in, it will. It uses the opponent's own mind against them, and no amount of distance between Kocaqi and his targets will ever free them. On a surface level analysis with no power scaling and not a lot of deep thought put into it, that ability is absurdly busted. If Vladimir were to fight Johnny Joestar from part 7 and Johnny was in a state where he did not feel confident about his spin ability, that ideal would permanently lock in. And if it's a younger Johnny, for example, like a TUS Act 1 Johnny, chances are he won't be able to progress to TUS Act 2 because of Vladimir's abilities. Or maybe Koichi and his confidence problem. Vladimir locks in that Koichi doesn't feel confident about Echo's Act 3, and now he's in a constant loop of where he thinks he cannot beat Vladimir. A bigger one. In a hypothetical fight between Yoshikage Kira and Vladimir Kocaqi, Vladimir locks in Kira's constant obsession with trying to keep his identity a secret. In doing that, Kira does not want to fight Vladimir whatsoever because he does not want to reveal Killer Queen or his serial killer tendencies. Now, for the most part, I've just been giving the idea of locking in an emotion or an idea, but of course we are forgetting about sensations here. Actually, within Purple Haze Feedback is a great example. Vladimir Kocaqi locks in the sensation on Fugo that he feels unbalanced, and because of this, Fugo cannot properly balance himself and chase after Vladimir. Fugo, in this moment, minutes after being locked in, figures out that only a greater sensation can temporarily stop it, and in doing so, hurtles himself up into the air and crashes on to Vladimir, killing him. However, though, to point this out, Vladimir only did this because he needed information out of everybody he was fighting in the current moment, so there was no killing intent. If Vladimir wanted to finish off Fugo, he could have in that moment. Remember, Vladimir is the guy who was able to simulate 80 years worth of life for his sister within 1 to 2 minutes. Vladimir could virtually do anything he wants to you because of your mind. A simple mistake could honestly lead to tragedy. To emphasize that even more, looking back on the feat he did with his sister, he was able to simulate over 700,000 hours of human existence within 1 to 2 minutes. In a scenario where he is trying to kill or defeat another stand user and the situation allows him to, the enemy stand user could be placed into a loop of thinking about a possibly bad future or past events, something similar to Abakio, ultimately losing to a guaranteed loss condition because of your own trauma, thinking about the future or the past. Or if you just think about it randomly, giving Vladimir all the time in the world to defeat you. And being a stand user with by far the most stand experience in the entire franchise, his previous sister feat could possibly even be magnified or shortened if he were to choose so. However, that is a little bit of speculation on my part, but it is pretty obvious in the main series that older stand users are deadly because of their experience. However, though, Vladimir has experience and stand power by his side, making him very unique for JoJo's. And on top of all of that, if the situation and its conditions allow him to, he could instantly kill you with Rainy Day Dream Away. This stand is terrifyingly busted, and then it's ultimately worsened by the fact that even if you somehow run away from Vladimir, that feeling will never ever leave you until Vladimir dies of natural causes or something like that. Now, going back to the start of the video, this is why I find this ability so terrifying. I personally can get over my fears, my anxieties, all my mental issues through time. But somebody like Vladimir could easily destroy me or any stand user with the same problems that I have. This ability would utterly cripple anybody, making their mind a prison of their own making. Looking back into the book, Sheila E. can't defeat Vladimir Kocaqi because she herself believes that she cannot beat him. Because of this mentality, Vladimir is virtually impossible to stop. I could not personally overcome anything he could throw at me if that was the case with me. To be at the constant state of being at your worst because Vladimir locks it in is something that a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people just in JoJo's and in real life, could not overcome. Look at the requirements of beating him. First off, you have to somehow beat your current sensation or idea or emotional state with something even greater just for it to revert back. So in that small moment, you have to somehow counterattack Vladimir, who, mind you, has a weapon on him to defend himself, as his stand isn't really built for combat like that, and successfully defeat him in one shot. And that only works if somehow your thing is overcomeable. You could be trapped in a genjutsu like his sister was way back in the day, or you could feel like you couldn't be able to defeat him, so you're like Sheila E. and you're basically locked out of beating him. So it is really up to what Vladimir chooses with Rainy Day Dream Away and what he locks on top of you to see if you can even potentially win or beat him. Because of the reality of the situation is, pun intended, can lock away your chances of beating him if you let him. As dumb as this sounds, there actually might be a win condition in some of his matchups that is basically, if you have a bad mental state, you lose, basically giving him a guaranteed victory. Like, the idea of Vladimir putting me away into a constant anxious state is so dreadful. Like, it's on like I have no mouth but I have to scream levels of like, oh my god, terms of fucked up. Now, switching up from the personal horror effect that Rainy Day Dream Away could do to you and looking in universe, Vladimir Kocaqi is very, very powerful and should be considered one of the strongest stand users within the original universe if we're counting non-canon stuff like Purple Haze feedback. With a statement that says Diavolo would rather negotiate than keep him in line with King Crimson says an awful lot about what Vladimir could do. Remember, Diavolo, thanks to the Winter JoJo magazine, is stronger than Part 3 Jotaro and Part 3 Polnareff. Mind you, these are some of the strongest stand users in the entire franchise, having speeds in the range of massively faster than light, and having some of the craziest abilities and best battle experience the franchise can offer. Hell, on a technicality reading into the Winter JoJo magazine statement, it even kind of implies that Diavolo could even take on the Part 4 counterparts of Polnareff and Jotaro, who are stated to be even stronger than their Part 3 counterparts. Now, mind you, that's the same Diavolo that does not want to fight Vladimir, making this all a pretty insane chain scaling feat for Vladimir in post. Now, you can argue it because it really is just a lot of glorified statement scaling, but if that's up your alley, Vladimir is definitely a contender you can put within the JoJo universe that could win a lot of hypothetical fights, due to the genjutsu / psychological torment he could do to his opponents. And as I say it out loud, honestly, Vladimir Kocaqi versus Joe Dio might be one of my favorite matchups I do want to do here in the near future. So, what can you take out of this? Well, for the most part, we all deal with mental things on a day-to-day basis, and you can get through it. If I can get through it, I know definitely you guys can too, but I know it varies, but I think you can. I believe in you. Another thing, Rainy Day Dream Away isn't real. You'll never have to fight Vladimir. Maybe. I kid. However though, when looking at Vladimir and his character, I do kind of agree with the idea of partnering up with people in order to achieve something better as a unit than an individual. I think this is core to a lot of things in life that I think a lot of people have forgotten about over the years. I wouldn't be here without you guys. That's how this whole YouTube channel works. It only works when you guys want to work with me. So I do think there is some truth in the fact that it takes more than one individual to achieve some type of fortune in one's life. So with that all being said, like, comment, share, subscribe, consider following on Patreon, stay hydrated, and I will see you in the next one, ladies and gentlemen. Deuces.